Hello, welcome to Berry Yarny Adventures, episode 5. I am Tanya, coming to you from southern Minnesota, where my family and I own a fruit farm called Firefly Berries, and where I dye yarn naturally with plants that we grow on the farm. So hello, good morning. It is morning here, Sunday, September 6th, I think, Labor Day weekend, and I finally set aside some time to share with you what I've been working on. August has been a busy month for us, but also kind of a hard month for me. 2020 for everyone has been challenging, but I have some pretty serious summer allergies happening right now, which makes it really challenging to go outside, to do natural dyeing. And then I also have, for those of you who don't know me, I struggle with some food sensitivities, and also I'm allergic to gluten. So when it all comes together, it makes for kind of a rough month, and that was August, and I just wasn't feeling like putting together a video. So that's why I've been away. But I have been knitting and making and crocheting a lot of stuff. I have 3 finished objects that are real finished objects, and then 2 smaller ones that I don't even know if they really count as objects, but I will share them with you anyway. They are a bit of a fail. But that's kind of it. That's where I've been. So let me get started with what I have finished. You'll see here, here's my first finished object on good old Betty Lou here. Let's see if I can get this to focus on the shawl. There we go. So this is my Free Your Fade shawl, and the pattern is by Andrea Mowry, and it's kind of, I had started it last time that I had podcast, but it's an asymmetrical shawl. You start on the skinny end, so over on this end. It's a very simple pattern, but also very relaxing and therapeutic. And then you're supposed to fade in your other colors. Well, my colors were kind of bright. I'm gonna put Betty Lou aside here. Let's put her back over here. And turn you back towards me. So my colors, I picked them because I have made something with each of these before, something that I really loved, and I had been saving these skeins, these leftovers, to make something. I don't know what I was thinking I was going to make, but something that I could enjoy and love. I wasn't ready to put them in a scrap blanket yet because there was just too much of them left. So I combined them all. This one, in retrospect, maybe I wouldn't have used this really bright one, but I do love it, and I have a hat that matches it that I'll wear in the winter. But the other 3 colors that I ended up using are a little more muted. So this color, I believe, is called A Girl's Night Out, and it is in Lavish Sport or Lavish DK from One Twisted Tree, who no longer dies, so that one you couldn't get anymore. This one is a Dream in Color Smushy. I think it's called Fire Ice. The light purpley color here, this one is Spring Lilacs, and that's a Berry Fun Yarns color. And then the last one that I had just a little bit left of is this variegated purpley pink, and that one is Double Berry Milkshake, which is also a Berry Fun Yarns color. So I love it a lot. I think I will wear it. This shape is extremely wearable. You can put it on and just sort of drape it around yourself pretty easily, and it looks really nice. And who doesn't love the picot bind off? It just gives it a nice, I don't know, I think it gives it a nice feminine look. So anyway, I'll keep that one on for now. Maybe I should put it back on Betty Lou. She's looking a little naked at the moment. Wouldn't want Betty Lou to feel cold. So that's finished object number 1. And then finished objects number 2 and 3 are actually socks that I had made for myself. Let me just put them on my sock blocker here. This is the first one. This is just a simple vanilla sock, and it is knit in Berry Fun Yarns, Berry Tough Sock, which is 80% merino, 20% nylon, and it is in the colorway Unicorn Tails. So it has this really fun repeating pattern that it when I knit it up in the sock. And I did 64 stitches around, and I knit my socks on a size 0 US because I'm kind of a loose knitter. And then I did a traditional heel flap and gusset, and I just used some contrasting yarn that I had in my stash. So that's pair number 1. I love those. I'm kind of, you can see with the shawl and with the socks that I finished this month, I'm in kind of a purpley place, which that's okay. Purple is great. Kind of have what's in my stash. And then the things that you'll see that I cast on, a lot of them are in the green and blue phase. The second pair of socks that I finished are these. These I did 64 stitches around again, but I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel. And this is knit in the Knit Picks Felici yarn. And I cannot remember the colorway, but I will put it on the screen if I can find it. I know it's in my project page. These babies I started 2 years ago in 2018, and I had finished one sock. I started them in the fall. First I thought I was going to give them to one person for a Christmas gift, and then I was like, maybe I'll give them to somebody else. But in the end, I have decided they are for me. I used to feel like, I don't know, more obligated or more, I do still love to knit gifts for people. However, I find great joy also knitting for myself. So I don't believe in selfish knitting. I think knitting is to bring you joy, and knit what you want to knit. If you want them to be for you, knit them for you. If you want them to be for someone else, knit them for someone else. But I don't think it's a great idea for our spirit to put these rules and, I don't know, pressures on ourselves to get something knit for someone. So those are my 3 big finishes, 2 socks and a shawl. So then I thought I would be a really nice cat mom, and I would make my cats some new cat toys because they seemed kind of bored, like they needed a little cheering up or something new for them to look at. So I had put these patterns in my queue, I don't know, 4 years ago, and they seemed pretty simple, straightforward. One was a little ball, I think it's called Out of Yarn. I'll put the pattern on the screen and below in the notes. And the other one is called, excuse me, I think it's called Catnip Bunny. Anyway, I made them, but they are the ugliest things that I have ever made in my life. First of all, this one, check this out. This is supposed to be a ball. I don't know, look at it. It's not a ball. It's, one of my friends said I created a new shape. However, my son says, my 15-year-old says it was a canoe. I don't know. I gave up. I ripped it out I don't know how many times to try and figure out how it worked. And I believe it's like an entrelac sort of thing. And you're supposed to use different colors, and I was just using one color, and I don't think that made the difference. But for some reason, you're supposed to like knit one section up, like, you know, like a rectangle, and then you knit the next section, and they kind of all fit in together. Mine did not. So in the end, I decided, why am I stressing myself over this cat toy? Because the cats couldn't care less. So I just made it, I finished it, I put it together. I think it's a little bit big for them. I knit this in worsted weight. This is Cascade 220 non-superwash, some leftovers I had. And I used a size 2.5 US needle, which is really small, but yet my gauge still could have been tighter. But you can see, let's see if you can kind of see. You see my cats have already, they couldn't care less. I put catnip in it. They have already pulled it apart. So that was fail number 1 in the knitting world, but in the sense for the cats, they couldn't care less. And I don't know, I'm not a stuffy maker. I don't know how I can knit beautiful colorwork sweaters or other things that are challenging lace shawls, but yet I cannot knit a ball. I cannot knit a ball. I do not know. I don't know where my fail is, but it's not my gift, I guess. And I think the pattern got good reviews, so it was probably not the pattern writer. It was probably my inadequacy in understanding the pattern. This is the second one I made, which, again, I made in the same yarn. Look, is that the sorriest looking catnip bunny you have seen in your life? Now you see, this is not my bad knitting. This is my cat. I have 3 cats, but one in particular loves wool knitted things, and she has chewed the bejeebas out of it already. And this one, you can see my gauge. This one is, I messed it up. You're supposed to knit, slip, knit, slip. These are free patterns, so I'm not giving away any secret sauce. But you're supposed to do this, basically a rectangle, but then it creates a pocket. Well, I screwed it up in the beginning. Look at that. And I must have messed up something, and that's not right. But I was too lazy, and I didn't care enough to redo it. And then you're supposed to put your stuffing in the middle with your catnip, and then you're supposed to make these 2 little ears at the top and close it in. It's supposed to look like a bunny. And I don't know if I stuffed them too full. Obviously my gauge is too loose because the stuffing is coming out already. But I don't know. Cat toys. I have great aspirations to make these. They shouldn't take very long, but I always seem to screw them up. So I have decided, because I am a loose knitter and because my cats tear the crap out of them, that I am going to crochet them from now on, because one of the favorite toys that I have made for my cats is like a crocheted mouse. I will include the pattern below as well. And that one I know that I have made, and it has lasted longer. So crocheting, for those of you who don't crochet or maybe don't really think about it, crocheting is a series of knots, whereas knitting is more of a weaving where you weave the yarns together. So when you think about durability, the knots are much stronger than the weaving, because the cat claws, for instance, in this case, would more easily go through or what is this called? Snag the knitting than they would the crocheting. So next time I will be crocheting catnip mice, and in the meantime my cats will enjoy these until they fall apart and need to go in the garbage. So those are my finished objects. I have knit a lot since I have done a podcast last. Last time, I believe, I talked about, let me see if I can find a picture, the Novelli sweater that I was going to make. Here's a picture of that one. And that is by Caitlin Hunter. And I cast it on at the beginning of August, and I'm almost done with it. You can see it has the pretty decorative bottom, and then the top is this mustard color. And last night I finished the first sleeve. I thought I could get them both done, but didn't happen. But it's got a cool where you knit extra and then you fold it over, so you kind of get that pop of color underneath. But I like it. I've knitted in, I have to think, the purpley color. So this bottom dark plum color is Frabu Fibers. I can't remember the colorway. The multicolored, kind of sparkly bits in between is a Berry Fun Yarns sparkle yarn, and it's called It's My Party. It was kind of a one-of-a-kind. And then the yellow is also Berry Fun Yarns, and that is in mustard in the All-Star DK base. So I believe this pattern actually is a fingering weight pattern. I, however, am a loose knitter, so often I can just adjust the sizing based on my gauge. So this one I knit the size 2, and I used size 2 US needles for the ribbing. Then I went up to a 4 for the color work, and then I went back down to a 3 for the straight knitting. So that's a tip if you're just starting out doing color work and you're finding your gauge is different than, for color work is different than the other parts of your section. Just switch up the size of your needle and it should make that kind of flow better. Here's the back. The back is kind of pretty too. So that's what I did. I love the pattern. It fits, but I have been working really hard at trying not to make things too big because I know in particular this DK Weight All-Star DK, that is a very fun yarns color. That base really stretches when I wash, so also something to remember when you are knitting garments is to, if you don't know the yarn base well, make sure that you do a proper wash, gauge swatch with a wash and dry, just like you would do your own sweater when it's completed, because it really can affect how big the sweater is. So I'm hoping that it will stretch out quite a bit. I'd like a little more ease. This is supposed to have, I think, like between 4 and 10 inches of positive ease, and I think it will, but I just didn't want it to be too big and feel like I was wearing a muumuu or something crazy like that. So that is the Novelli sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And then let's see where to start. So in the past, I'll show you these. I made these for my son. They've been well worn. These are just like, I think it's called the Go-To Fingerless Mitts. I will include that pattern below. I love them. They're super easy. It's just kind of a I think it's a free pattern, and I think it's a knit 3 purl 2 ribbing, but these are perfect for, he plays the piano, so he loves to have, you know, his wrist warm and his hand warm while he's playing the piano. They're great for just a little extra layer. These are for my oldest son, who is 17, and he has kind of the same build as I do. We have very long arms. We joke that we have gorilla arms. My husband is actually 2 inches taller than I am, but my wingspan is longer than his wingspan. So often our wrists will get cold because if you don't knit your own or make your own clothing completely, you buy it at the store and the store does not really understand. There's big and tall men, but not like tall and thin men, which is what my son is, and they don't make, I don't know, I feel like the sleeves on women's things with the size that I need are always super short. So anyway, fingerless mitts are great. So what I'm doing, I did not make him a new pair of these. Those are from last year, but I am making him a cowl to go with it. And I find he doesn't, he goes to a local college for classes right now, even though he's only a senior in high school, and he won't wear like a scarf or something like that. But if it's just a quick kind of tight-fitting cowl to give him some extra warmth, I think he will wear that. So this is a light cowl. I have the pattern in here by Susie White, Prairie Girl Designs. You can kind of see her beautiful face there. And let's see if there's a better picture of the cowl. No, not really. So let me show you this. It's a very tight-fitting cowl, and it has a series of, you kind of see pearls and knits that give it this texture. So everything in the pattern is achieved through pearls and knits. So see, won't these match nice? His have kind of faded a little bit, even though I only made them last year. But so what I'm doing for this pattern is a, excuse me, a DK weight pattern. So I'm holding two fingering weights double, and I'm holding the leftovers. This is what I made Lucas's fingerless mitts in. It is unwind yarn, I believe. So kind of a fun variegated green color. And then this one, the other one, the solid one, is red sock, blue sock yarn. And it is in dark teal. That's our fancy cashmerino for him. So it's got 20% cashmere, 10% nylon, and 70% 70% merino. So it's super soft. You can kind of see the halo even up here on the top. But it is working up really nicely together. You can't, I don't think you can even tell that it's two different colorways, frankly. So that's going to be super squishy and warm. And I think I have, there's a chart. I think I have about not quite a whole repeat left. And then I will be finished. I'll just have to do the ribbing and it'll be done. So I'm hoping to have that done for him by the time it gets cold out. So that is the A Light Cowl by Susie White. And we'll stick on that theme. I'll show you these other socks. I picked these up a little bit, but I wasn't feeling super motivated by the colors, to be honest. So this is just another pair of vanilla socks. Got a piece of hair on there. This is where I left off last time, but this is Berry Tough yarns, very fun yarns in the Berry Tough sock base, and this is the Dragon's Breath colorway. So if you look real close, it's green and yellow and blue. This was the colorway I came out with in June for ZK at Home. I'm just going to move my stitch marker there, and I knit for it a little bit, and the color it's a great color. I mean, I dyed it. I don't usually dye things that I don't like, but I don't know, green just wasn't speaking to me, the green blue combo. But they are also for my 17-year-old son who loves he loves green. So those are going to be his. I always try to make at least one new pair of socks for my boys each fall, winter, that they can have. Their feet don't grow as much anymore, but it's nice to have a fresh pair of socks. Who doesn't like a fresh pair of socks? So that is that. All right, let's see what else I have down here. Oh, this is something I cast on that I'm loving. It's another pair of socks for myself. I have this in a silver shed bag. This was from ZK 2018 with all my little pins on it. And this is an old Suburban Stitcher needle cozy. And this yarn is making me so happy. So these, aren't these just the funnest socks? Look at that green. This is a simple 64 stitch. I'm using US 0 needles. I think I'm using Chaogu double pointed needles. Kind of all crazy and all over the place. But the yarn is BFL nylon. I think it's 80% merino, 20% nylon, and it is from Amy at Stranded Dye Works in Scotland now. And she came out with two special COVID colorways. One was called Wash Your Hands and one was called Don't Touch Your Face. And I actually got both, but this is the Wash Your Hands colorway. And it is so fun. And then I just added, I wanted to make a contrast heel so that I could save some extra of the yarn to do something else with. So I put in just a simple gray tonal. I don't think I have a name for it. Oh, yeah, I do. It is Goth. One Twisted Tree again, who's no longer dying, but it's her prime 75-25 base. So I'm doing good. I have just, the foot and the toe left to do on the first one, and then I will be on to the second one. And my youngest son, who is 8, Lincoln, this is the yarn and the cake, he has already claimed any leftovers for me to make him a pair of shorty socks. He also has told me, I better put this back in or it's going to fall out. He told me the other day that he doesn't need long socks anymore. He is completely happy with shorties, even in the winter, because only his foot and ankle get cold. So that's great news for me. I can make him socks way faster when I don't have to make the leg. So yay for that. So those are vanilla socks. Okay, we're getting towards the end. The other thing I cast on was a shawl. I have a lot of projects. I was not kidding when I said I had a lot of projects. And this is, I don't know if it's a very good picture. Oh, here it is. Birds of a Feather by Andrea Mowry. And I am making this in Very Fun Yarns soft singles. This one is Under the Sea. So it's got blues and greens and yellow. And this one is also, the mohair is supposed to be Under the Sea as well, but this one took on more of a yellow hue than a green. It just happens sometimes. These are indigo dyed yarns, and this one I think was probably dipped in the indigo vat later towards the end of the time I was dyeing, and so the indigo just wasn't quite as strong. So it's kept more of its yellow base. So this is kind of a fun shawl. I was knitting on it for a while and then I kind of stopped because I wanted to finish my sweater. But it's got this airy section in the middle, so it's a very beautiful thong right now with a little see-through patch. Okay. But it starts kind of skinny like this, and then it will get wider. But you can see it's got this really airy mohair section, and then the darker. So it will be a little more contrasty because it has, you know, the yellow is a little more yellowy here than the green, but I think it will be really pretty. And I'm really enjoying the knit on this pattern. It's kind of the relaxing, a lot of garter stitch with just a little bit of things to remember. And that one is supposed to take 2 skeins of the singles and 1 of the mohair. So I think I will like that one a lot. And I'm not really in a hurry to finish that one. I've been in the mood for, I finished a bunch of things. So then I was really in the mood to cast stuff on, and I had wound up that yarn a while ago and had bought the pattern. So I thought, why not cast that on? And the last couple things I have are my scrappy projects. So if you recall, if you've been watching some of my other videos, I have been working on a granny square blanket with all these fun little squares. I have a whole bag of them. And I was going to just make it all willy-nilly random squares, but then I decided that I really I thought it would be more fun and I'd enjoy it more if I had some solid-ish squares that were all the same in the middle. So I purchased, I have all the multicolored ones done, and now I don't have all right, well, I can't remember. I think it's Hawthorne Fingering from Knit Picks, and I love this base. So this is the little squares. They kind of have a little bit of green, gray, and black. I have to admit that the color picture that they had online did not show as much green as came out in the actual skein, but it's hand-dyed, so that's the way it goes with hand-dyed, right? But I have to make about 150 of these in this color, and I have about 11 done, so I have a ways to go. But this blanket's going to be for my son when he goes away to college next year. Here's the skein. And I am crocheting that on a US C 2.75 millimeter clover crochet hook, which I love. Anyway, so I've been working on that here and there. I will take, when I homeschool my kids, we started our school mid-August, so we've been going for about a month already, and I will take, some days I usually take a project down, whether it's socks or something that I'm just knitting stocking net on. And some days I'll just take this down and I'll crochet a couple squares while I'm listening to reading or piano or helping them with dictation or things like that. So that is that. And I have 2 more scrappy projects that I have done some work on since I saw you. Okay, this is my granny stripe blanket, and it is getting fairly big. Let's see if I can unfurl it and show you where I left off last time. Oh, here. You can see there's my little sheepy stitch marker. That's where I was the last time that I podcast. So I've done a fair bit. I don't know, what is that, about 5-6 inches? So you can see it's getting really big. But I'm really enjoying this one too. I haven't done, like I said, I've been really kind of pushing to get done my sweater. The Minnesota has started to see some, not today, it's warm today, but next week it's supposed to be like highs in the 60s, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I'm starting to feel more like I'm ready for blankets, ready for sweaters more than I am ready for blankets. Even though, you know, this blanket I think is going to be a gift as well. So, but it's not an urgent project, but I really want to wear some of these fun things and have them ready for me to wear. So that is the Granny Stripe blanket, and I believe it's by Lucy of Attic 24, I think. And the last thing that I have been knitting on actually is a whip that I had started quite a long time ago when this pattern first came out, which I don't know when that was. That was a while ago. And it's a blanket. It is the Northeasterly blanket. And I decided to do this with some of my DK and worsted scraps. So I've just started the first strip. You cast on down here and you kind of go by strips. And I think you can stop and you can, and you're like, I could do another strip anytime. I don't have to make it the full length, but I decided I'm going to make mine the full length of how big or how wide I want it, whichever way I decide for my stripes to go. And then I will do the next strip, and I'll just go from there. So here's my scraps. You can see I keep them in this little box, and a lot of them are, you know, leftover like Knit Picks, Cascade, some sweater things, but I'm using only superwash in this particular blanket just because blankets are kind of tricky to have non-superwash because you can't throw it in the washing machine. So yeah. So that is where I'm with that one. This is a very relaxing pattern because it's only 20 to 25 stitches. I just counted really fast in the DK weight. And when you purchase, it's a purchase pattern, and it is available. You get the fingering and the DK weight numbers in the pattern. So I like this pretty slip stitch down the middle. So of course the fingering one has more stitches across to get the same width, but I think that is going to be super squishy and nice. I'm kind of thinking this one I might save for, I might make a queen size blanket for my husband and I for our bed for the winter time. And I cannot remember what size needle, but I am using the interchangeable Knit Picks bamboo needles. So I will be sure to link all of my project pages so you can see all the patterns and also the needle sizes and any notes that I have. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I am Berry Fun Mom on Ravelry as well as Instagram if you want to reach out to me there. One last thing, 2 last things before I go, but first I want to show you these beautiful skeins of yarn that I got in. These were my last 2 purchases from ZK at Home in June that came, and they are from Mitchell's Creations. And they are Ça C'est Bon, which is a 4-ply DK weight, 100% superwash merino, 231 yards. And this one is called Blacked Out Catastrophe, and this one is just Catastrophe. So I am actually going to pair them, I know what I'm going to make, with this Stunning String Studio Dynamic 100% Superwash Merino 230 yards, 100 grams in really raspberry. And I am going to make, I think it's going to look like this, what's it called, the hipster shawl? No. I'm blanking. It's a Joji Locatelli pattern. I will put it below. But so it'll be kind of, it'll start with the lighter, it'll get a little darker, and then the edging will be this pop of pink. So I think that will be super fun. When I get to it, I have one DK weight shawl, and I've kind of been looking at my shawls lately and thinking, you know, I don't really love that one as much anymore. Let's find one to replace it and then share that one with somebody else who would enjoy having a hand knit shawl. So I'm kind of doing some fall cleaning in my hand knit drawers. If you follow our farm, you may already know this, but we have a nonprofit section of our farm. We're not a registered nonprofit, but it's called Firefly Hats for Hope Initiative Minnesota, and it was started by a girl named Emily out in New Jersey, I believe, quite a few years ago. She actually no longer runs it, I believe, the national part, because she's gone off to college. She was a 18-year-old or 16-year-old when she started it. Anyway, the organization itself started to collect warm hats and mittens for homeless people in the New Jersey, New York area. And then they have had what they call, forget what they call them, but different bases throughout the United States. There's one in Minnesota, and the different states have them. And we are the one in Minnesota. So we collect warm items that we distribute then to homeless in Rochester area. I also, most of those I bring to the local library, where they have a section in an area where they hand out hats and scarves and mittens and cowls and things like that to the homeless and those in need in our Rochester area directly. And then I also send some things away to the Pine Ridge Reservation in the Dakotas, which is a very poor reservation of Native Americans that are in need of all kinds of warm things. And you can find that also on Ravelry. They have a group. But I send things there, and I like to send things there and also to Hats and More for, I think it's called Hats and More for Syrian Refugees. I will link it below. I'm blanking on the exact name, but I like sending some things to those two places as well, because they are both really great organizations, but they also are willing to accept 100% wool non-superwash stuff, because most all those people actually wash their clothing by hand anyway, so it's not a big deal. So that way, as knitters and makers or crocheters, you can make whatever you want with whatever you have left over, and then just send it to us at Firefly Berries here. I'll put that link and information below about that part of our farm, and then we will distribute it to the various places. So anyway, I think I will probably be sharing some of my warm woolly things that I have enjoyed but are still in really great condition with some of those people who are in need of some warm items. So anyway, all that to say, that is some pretty yarn that I have received. I don't have any natural dyeing to share with you today. I have not been dyeing since early July for a couple reasons. One, a business has been really slow because there aren't really any in-person events. The farmers market here in Rochester, where I normally go with my yarn, is still operating. However, we are not attending because of COVID for lots of reasons, but the main thing being that I don't have a lot of fresh produce, and selling yarn when customers aren't really supposed to be touching the yarn makes it really challenging. And so I have not been doing that. I just have my online store. So I have a lot in the store yet from the update I did in June, And also the pollen has been really hard. I don't know if I picked the wrong thing to do, but a natural dyer who is allergic to pollen and weed pollen is not really great when the pollen year is bad. So this time of year, I go outside and I sneeze, and so working with the flowers and all those things is really hard. So I've just not been doing it. It doesn't mean that I will never do dyeing again. I'm just taking a little break. But there are lots of things still in the shop that I would love for you to check out and enjoy. But I think that's it. I hope to be coming to you again in a couple weeks. And until then, I hope you are all staying safe and healthy, and you are having a wonderful time making and creating things that bring you joy. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.